Thank you for joining us today. I call the April 20th meeting of the Human Rights Commission to order. Let's begin with an introduction of commission members, please. Sarah?
Sarah Boonstoppel, Commissioner.
Cheryl Schaefer, Commission Member.
Nancy Boyle, Commissioner.
Barry Nelson, Commission.
Cody Severson, Chair.
Seko Sirleaf, member.
Jacqueline Dotson-Rudd.
All right, thank you, folks. The next item up is going to be to approve or amend the agenda. I would like to add on to that, though, after number 5. Now we have a legislative update by Member Barry Nelson. Let's see, can I get a second on that?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. We will have a legislative update after the after item 5. The next item is to approve the minutes of the March 16th, 2023 meeting. They are before you. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, that motion carries. Next up, we will hop right into it. A presentation by Fred Edwards Jr. on the Juneteenth presentation, please.
Hey, welcome everybody. Good to see you all this morning. It's lovely and bright and sunny outside, as you all know. But today I'll be talking to you about the FM Juneteenth. In the last couple of years, we've had some works with the city of Fargo doing Juneteenth events. And this year we are expanding that, and we want to have it be cross-collaborative with the other cities. And so we're working with West Fargo and Moorhead to make this a full endeavor that all communities can enjoy and be a part of. And so a little bit about myself. I'm an educator, so I just left a class just to come here. But yeah, we've been doing some things. I graduated from NDSU, my bachelor's and master's in education, and we do a whole lot of retreats. And last year I won PBS All-Star Teacher of the Year. Just a little background about me. I've been curating for a couple of years now. I worked at NDSU in the Office of Multicultural Programs doing their events. We've been doing events with YouthWorks and other places. And so it's been really fun to collaborate with other cities and other people to see what we can bring to life. And so super excited to talk to the Human Rights Coalition Commission because y'all do the work. And so thank y'all so much. And obviously, I really care about community building. And so just recently won the Water Future Building recipient. Trying to create a sense of belonging in North Dakota, and we work with students and families from all regions, whether that be West Fargo, Moorhead, or Fargo. And so what is Juneteenth? Just in case people do not know what it is the anniversary date of the Union Army proclaiming freedom of enslaved peoples. And so what ended up happening is in 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation was signed, but people were still enslaved. And so in 1865, they had Union troops, Black Army soldiers, go down to Galveston, Texas, the farthest part of Texas, to make sure that those people knew that they were free. And in real time, there's a celebration and jubilee. And so what we do in history is showcase this. And so this is the oldest African-American holiday to exist. And so this one, what we believe, showcases Freedom Day, and it's an opportunity for the whole community to come together and get support. So a couple of timelines of the Juneteenths that we did in the past. I know a lot of people are like, 4th annual? I didn't know that we did these before. And so our first annual was... Technically, we did these prior to this at NDSU and at other places, but we opened it up to the community about three and a half years ago. So we had one at Lindenwood Park. It was about 150 people, pretty small budget. So we started to collectively grow together slowly but surely. And last year we had our 3rd annual, which was award-winning. We got the Main Street Award for that one. So that was really exciting. And we say this all to say that we've been working on this and making sure that this is something that we consistently do and that we want to continue to do. And so our pillars for Juneteenth are super important. We're super intentional about the things that we do. And so reclamation, rejoice, reflect, receive, and reimagine. There's this idea that in order for us to move forward, we always have to do the unimaginable, which is thinking about how we move forward without kind of complaining or any of those things. And so this year's Juneteenth will be different than Juneteenths in the past. And so typically we just have one small gathering at the NDSU Renaissance Hall, and that typically has anywhere from 600 to 800 people show up. It's an outdoor event. Last year was 108 degrees, so we're hoping that the heat will slow down for us just a little bit. And so our goal is to expand it this year to have the community event on the Fargo side. And so that will be about a 7-hour event from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. This would be a collective collaboration with the city of Fargo and North Dakota State University. And then on the Moorhead side, we plan on doing a film and art festival. And this will be for the youth to showcase their films, their performances, and different things like that. But Juneteenth, all in all, is to bring all the cities together and to showcase really the diversity and the pockets of diversity that we have in the great city of Fargo, but then also in West Fargo and Moorhead. And so the primary thing is to grow and cultivate, right? Because it's a national holiday now. People are more aware of what it is. You can get that day off of work, but there's this idea that I'm not really sure where to go or how to learn more. And so what this event will do, it'll showcase all those different things. And so I'm not going to read you all of this. I'm just going to summarize it. And basically what it says is that I was born in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I've been going to Juneteenth celebrations since I was a little kid. You would see the mayors, activists, social workers, and all these different people at these events. And so seeing all these different backgrounds, there's this understanding that if we want to create an ecosystem of belonging, we have to create spaces for people to know that they belong and that they deserve to be here. And then primarily, I just had a daughter. My daughter's 2.5 years old. She's a force. But she was born during the George Floyd protests, riots, whatever you want to call them. So she's not seeing the world as unified as I would love for her to see. So this goal of this event is to explore what it would look like to be unified as a community. And so that's kind of why we do Juneteenth. To take it a step further, our theme this year is Afrofuturism. If you've never heard the term Afrofuturism, it is thinking the unimaginable. So it's a story of musicians, artists, writers, philosophers, and so forth who want a better future for Black people and for all people. And so this movement dares to imagine a world where African descended people and their cultures play a central role in the creation of that world. And so what you will see at this event, you'll see Black history, you'll see timelines, you'll see sci-fi, you'll see virtual reality experiences, augmented reality experiences. We really hone in on STEM, but the most important part is that we have local talent, local people doing these artistries. We have architects from North Dakota State University. We have historians from public and local entities. And so it's this idea that how do we bring people in to create these events that are local, that are from Fargo? And so we don't necessarily need to bring in people from all over the country to showcase what we have here, but we'll also have some pretty cool talents from outside of the region as well. And so our community event is super long for some people. For other people, it's pretty short. Typically, these events are about 5 to 6 hours. And so at this event, you'll see live music. There'll be flash mobs. If you don't know what a flash mob is, it's probably because you haven't been out of the state of North Dakota, which is okay. And so this idea of how do we bring people together to showcase different things so you can bring your entire family. It's a family-friendly event. All of our events are sober fun, sober focused. And so we have photo booths, we have hair shows, we have carnival games for the kids. All youth eat free. So shout out to the city. Last year, they made sure that we make that happen. And we want to do that again this year. We'll feed 150 kids for free. They don't have to worry about that. We'll have actors and circle building and ways for people to network and collaborate. We'll have some resource tables. So the Human Rights Commission and Coalition will most likely be there like they always are. And this idea of like, how do we bring people together in a way to showcase a heavy history, a heavy topic, while also keeping it something that people can continue to go to learn, to reflect and reimagine. And so I'm going super fast just because I feel like I've talked about this maybe 55 times just in the last week, but some of you, if you've never heard about our Juneteenth events, I think it's something that you can come out to and enjoy yourself and really try out what it means to learn about African American history. And so our film and art festival is a little different than our community event just because we are youth driven. And so we have a youth curator, somebody who has been thinking about what we can do to get youth more involved. And so we've been working with some of the city youth leaders on creating this event and getting this event going. And so this will be over the river on the other side. And this will have youth films, youth speakers, youth panels, and so forth. And so pretty excited about both events. I think that they will both make a huge impact in our community. And so these are some of the things that I won't talk about here, but we can definitely have further conversation if you want to know more about them. But yeah, again, Juneteenth is super important. It's something that's happening nationally. It's something that's happening internationally. Right now in the Caribbean, whether you go to Barbados, Brazil, or different places, they're celebrating Juneteenth, and it originated in America. And so what better place to showcase this and show our communities coming together than to have Juneteenth? And so I think I should say thank you. But again, appreciate y'all so much. Thank y'all for giving us the time and the floor. And I hope y'all get to learn about Juneteenth, come and experience Juneteenth. It is a free event. And yeah, thank you so much.
Any questions or comments? Yeah, go ahead.
Fred, thank you, first of all, for being here. Thank you for being a force for good in the community. Appreciate that very much. And two questions. One was, you talked about, other than showing up, what is our way of having buy-in to the event and supporting the event? If you have anything that we could take a lead from you on that. And then I have a second question, but if you want to answer that first.
Absolutely. So we do a lot of volunteer opportunities at the event. Right now, we're working with YouthWorks to get they do a We've Got You Covered event that happens in August. And so you might be able to separate clothes and help them out there. So we'll have some ways for people to give back at the event itself. But primarily showing up is the most important part. So then you can actually get activated at the event. But if there's other ways that people want to get involved, we're definitely looking for volunteers, people who want to be at the event, helping out at the event, whether that be volunteering, passing out waters. It was 108 degrees last year, so I'm sure we'll need people to hand out waters and things of that sort. But if this is something that you would like to volunteer at, we definitely have all that on the website already.
You didn't mention the wind along with that yet last year. But anyway, that beside the point. It was a great event. The second question, and I know because this is something you're doing all the time, that this is not just a one-day deal. We don't just honor Juneteenth on the Juneteenth, that there's things going on throughout the year. Can you talk to ways that this is going to be a ongoing community building?
Yeah, Afrofuturism is the theme of my life this year. This is the idea of how do we reimagine the world that we live in to make it a greater future for those behind us. And so we do Umoja writing workshops all throughout the school year. And so they're actively doing events. The city puts on the Martin Luther King event, which showcases our youth, and they get to showcase all their talents and those different things. And so there's this idea that we're consistently doing small things to make people feel validated. But we have our last Fargo Got Talent happening next Saturday, and that event is free as well. And this idea of how do we bring people together to showcase the talent that Fargo has in a way that isn't performative or pandering, but in a way that's just, hey, come and show up and know that you're important, that you're welcome. And so this idea of Afrofuturism, you'll hear it a lot this year for sure from me, and then unity. So Umoja in Swahili means unity. How do we unite? How do we bring people together and really showcase that?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for such a wonderful presentation, Fred. Is there any form of registration, or is it just a walk-in?
For the community event or for both events?
Both events.
Yeah, for the community event, typically we do registration the day of the event. It is not required to register. The event is free. That just helps us know what populations were there. We want to know what city you were from. And so we ask a couple of questions, whether you were from West Fargo, Moorhead, or Fargo, just so we know who's all coming. And then, there will be a small registration at the event, but that's not something that you have to do prior.
Sure. Yeah, that's what I wanted to know, because you talked about, intra-city, celebration. So needed to know who's coming from where, for that record.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Great question.
I just had one quick question. For those of us who want to volunteer and or learn more about the event, can you say the website that we can go to?
Yeah.
I missed it in the slides.
No, that's all right. I'm sorry. www.fredsdissonance.com. And so it's FREDSDISSONANCE.com. And so otherwise, you can also reach out to Ahmed. We got Dr. Hogan in the back, too. You can definitely reach out to either one of those two. I'm sure Cody will definitely help direct y'all as well. Sarah, I'm sure you will help direct us as well. So
I just wanted you to say it out loud.
There
so
you go.
It was on the record.
Yes, indeed.
Thanks
So yeah,
much.
it's on the website. You will be getting first dibs because we have our communications going out on the 29th, the same day as our event. We just don't want to confuse people about the two things. So there will be a call for artists, call for performers, call for resource tables. So if y'all have resource tables that are doing things for the community, we would definitely like that. And then we have a call for volunteers as well.
Great, thank you.
I'm just excited to have you here today. Thank you for coming. My question was going to be about resource tables, because we do have tables that we've set up at different things like Pride in the Park and stuff. And you answered that question. so we can look at doing that and having a presence. The other thing is I was at the one, not your event last year, at another one, and the wind was absolutely awful. It was so hot. I hope that doesn't happen this year. And this is just a personal thing that I think is kind of cool. My 2.5-year-old granddaughter, same age as your daughter, was born on Juneteenth, and her name is Harriet,
Thank you for sharing that.
which is an extremely important name.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Anyway, so thank you for being here. Thank you for doing this. It's something that we just need in the community.
Perfect. Thank you, Fred.
Appreciate that. Thank y'all so much.
All right, and we will hop into number 5 then, Civil Rights and Hate Crime presentation by U.S. Attorney Max Schneider, please.
Well, thank you, members of the commission. Very happy to be here. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy agenda to allow me to speak pursuant to the department's United Against Hate initiative and touch on federal hate crimes laws. I have the pleasure of knowing several of you, some of you for many, many years, but for those who I haven't met yet, my name is Max Schneider, and I'm the United States Attorney. Work here in downtown Fargo with Tara Iverson, who's an assistant United States Attorney in our civil division. And just want to briefly touch on, if I can, the history of the Department of Justice, if I could. And I really appreciated Fred's presentation because it dovetails well with the origin story of the department. Our roots, we trace ourselves back to Reconstruction. So in the years after the Civil War, the Department of Justice was founded to protect the rights of newly freed Americans, to guarantee their rights under the 14th Amendment and the 15th Amendment. You see I've gratuitously included a picture of Amos Ackerman, who was the Attorney General at the time. And we try not to get too far away from our history. And that's reflected in our mission statement today, to uphold the rule of law, to keep our country safe, and protect civil rights. And the Attorney General has been very clear that there's no one part of that mission statement that takes precedence over the other two. In fact, we think all three go together very concisely. And so I'm here today as part of the department's United Against Hate initiative. All United States attorneys, all 93 of us, are working with their staff and with their attorneys to conduct community outreach. And the purpose is very simple. We want to encourage an understanding of federal hate crimes laws, encourage reporting, and most importantly, prevent federal hate crimes where humanly possible. And so that is the purpose, is to liaise, to make connections, and to build relationships for that purpose. I will try to resist reverting back to my days as an adjunct law professor when I go through these statutes, but here is a grid that gives you a brief survey of some of the major federal hate crimes laws. The big one being the Shepard-Byrd Hate Crimes Prevention Act. That's the one we're probably going to spend most time on today. But there's also federal statutes that criminalize damaging religious property, obstructing the free exercise of religion, interfering with federally protected rights like going to school or voting, interfering or threatening someone's housing rights, and conspiring against individuals' rights are all hate crimes under federal law. As I'm sure the members of this commission well remember, the 2009 Shepard-Byrd hate crimes law has its genesis in two really abhorrent cases. The first being that of Matthew Shepard, who was targeted because of his sexual orientation while a student at the University of Wyoming. He was tragically murdered. And that of James Byrd, who was dragged to death by two white supremacists in Texas. And so nearly a decade after those horrific crimes, Congress enacted the Shepard-Byrd Hate Crimes Prevention Act. And what it did was expand the possibility of federal criminal liability for hate crimes against individuals of certain classes, including most prominently sexual orientation, gender identity, and also disability. There's three component parts to the Shepard-Byrd Act: racial hate crimes, non-racial hate crimes, and hate crimes on federal property. Racial crimes, you'll see the elements here, and these elements are something that are common to the other parts of the act, where an individual willfully causes bodily injury to another or attempts to do so using a weapon because of an individual's race, color, religion, or national origin that criminal liability will attach under that statute. For non-racial crimes, same thing, willful bodily injury because of the individual's gender, disability, sexual orientation, or gender identity. And the law also covers bias crimes on federal land, Indian country, and what have you, other federal lands. The penalties are pretty stiff under Shepard-Byrd. 10-year maximum, it's always a felony, straight up, and it can increase to life in prison if death results or if there's kidnapping, aggravated sexual abuse, or attempted murder. And there are challenges to enforcing federal hate crimes laws in proving a case. Those of us in the U.S. Attorney's Office, when we're trying to prove up a criminal case, we've got a tall order. That's to prove the crime beyond a reasonable doubt. And in this case, it means first proving that there's an injury. So this act only covers violence that causes bodily injury. You can think of a situation where someone screams abhorrent slurs at someone, gives them a hard push, but is there an injury there? Maybe, maybe not, depending on the facts of the case. So that's one hurdle that has to be overcome when prosecuting a charge under Shepard-Byrd. This is probably the bigger challenge, and that is proving that the willful bodily injury occurred because of someone's race, someone's gender identity, or other protected classes. And a lot of these cases, they involve mixed motives. An example that I've heard given, an individual is carrying a beer up stadium steps, another individual who's wearing a rainbow triangle t-shirt runs into that individual, the beer spills, the person says, "You spilled my $10 beer," uses a slur, punches him. Is that because of the animus towards the individual? That's the challenge in proving those cases. Another statute covers damage to religious property. Unfortunately, in the Fargo-Moorhead community, we're all too familiar with a case where religious property, in the case of the mosque in Moorhead a number of years ago, was damaged. That type of behavior, that is considered a federal hate crime. Obstruction of free exercise of religion. We see the proverbial chapter and verse there. Anyone who intentionally obstructs by force or threat of force any person involved in the enjoyment of the exercise of their religion, that is a crime. And the range of criminal behavior is really pretty vast. This is a press release from the U.S. Attorney's Office in New Mexico from a number of years ago. A woman wearing a hijab was confronted by an individual during a Southwest Airlines flight. This individual yells at her, rips off her hijab, says, "This is America." That is criminal interference with the free exercise of religion, and it was prosecuted as such in New Mexico. Of course, the most ghastly example of interference with the free exercise of religion occurred in 2015 in South Carolina. The defendant in that case was convicted of 33 counts of federal hate crimes violations, in addition to federal firearms violations as well. So a wide range of criminal behavior punishable under that statute. There's also a statute that prohibits the interference with right to fair housing. Unlike Shepard-Byrd, a threat to use force is actionable under this statute. And something to keep in mind as well, that when you're looking at those mixed motive cases and making charging determinations, there are plenty of statutes that can be used to address abhorrent behavior that don't involve looking into someone's heart, looking at their actions, and proving that they took those actions because of bias. Those include just some examples here: a use of fire during the commission of a felony. I'm sure we can all think of hate crimes that involve behavior like that. Interstate threats, crimes occurring on federal lands, possession of a felon in possession of a firearm. So those are all statutes that could be used to punish abhorrent behavior without the challenges of proving the because of element under Shepard-Byrd, for example. I heard it said a couple of years before I joined the Department of Justice, and it's always stuck with me, that we are not the Department of Prosecutions, we're the Department of Justice. Prosecutions are an important part of what we do, but that's not all that we do. Tara and her colleagues in our civil division, they're charged with affirmatively enforcing federal civil rights statutes. So those involving housing, employment, disability rights, voting rights. And I apologize, this is a little blurry. But here are the statutes that our civil division and the civil division at Maine Justice all enforce. Again, disability rights, education, voting rights, housing, that's all in our wheelhouse. This is probably the most important slide. I can't expect the members of the commission to fully understand the breadth and depth of federal hate crimes laws after about 15 minutes. And so the whole purpose of the United Against Hate initiative is, again, to build relationships in the community, to encourage reporting, and most importantly, prevent hate crimes before they occur. If you do believe a hate crime has occurred, please contact the FBI. Their contact information is up there. You can also contact the United States Attorney's Office. We do not sit behind court security and cloister ourselves. In fact, quite the opposite. The Attorney General wants us out there in the community talking about these issues and partnering to stop hate crimes, hopefully before they occur. And so I really appreciate the opportunity again to speak with you today, and I'd be happy to stand for any questions that you might have. If there are any hard questions, I'll refer them to Tara.
Can you say just a little bit more about the conspiracy against rights, just to get a general sense of what that means?
Yeah, conspiracy is where two or more individuals act together to interfere with somebody's rights. And so, as opposed to one individual who, on his or her own, interferes with someone's federally protected housing rights, this would be a group of individuals who do that, and it would be punishable under that statute.
Can you give a brief example? So I get the conspiracy, I get the pieces of it. I'm just trying to sort of wrap my head around what that looks like in practice.
Joe and Steve say, we don't want individuals of that ethnicity going to school here, and so we are going to get together and threaten them to make sure that they don't show up to school. That'd be a conspiracy.
Thank you.
There probably need to be an overt act in furtherance of that, but that's sort of the intermediate course.
Thank you.
I have a question about your community outreach. I understand that you're coming here today as part of that. But I was also wondering whether or not you do presentations on different things for events. Like the history of the Reconstruction Act and what that took place. You started off with that. Or even basic training outlines on civil rights and what we can expect as civil rights.
Yes, we do trainings quite frequently, and we welcome those kinds of invitations. We're always on the lookout for opportunities to meet with community members and talk a little bit more about what the Department of Justice does. So that is critical to fulfilling our mission. And so, please contact me via email or on the phone or after the meeting here today, because we'd love those opportunities to talk to people about what we do.
Okay, if I could have a few minutes after the meeting today,
Absolutely.
that would be wonderful, and you will understand why a little later on in the agenda. Thank you.
Sounds good, Cheryl. Thank you.
Thank you for coming and sharing with us today. I'm really impressed. I mean, I can go online and get these informations, but I'm sure going online, we'll have to rummage through so many pages to find all these different things you talk about, and you just have them right here in one place. Is there a way we can get a copy of this presentation?
Yes, absolutely. I'd be happy to email that to Ahmed, and he can share it with the members of the commission.
Thank you.
And again, don't hesitate to call if you have any follow-up questions.
Any other questions or comments?
Chair. Thanks, Matt, for being here today. It's great to have this personal connection between our two entities. So thank you, and thank you for your leadership and service. If you would connect two dots for me, because there's a couple initiatives going on in our community, somewhat unrelated, but they are related. One would be we have somebody, and see, this is my whole thing. I think of the Department of Justice as one entity, and I know there's many parts to it. So we have Rosa Salamanca has been working with a local group and planning a day around hate crimes, I believe. And this, if you can assure me that that is being connected with the local office. That would reassure me that we're working in tandem.
Yeah, thank you for the reminder. I did want to plug the May 18th Protecting Houses of Worship event that our office is going to be a part of. My understanding is that the FBI is going to be there. We're going to be extending additional invitations to law enforcement as well. And so Rosa works for the Community Relations Service, separate from the U.S. Attorney's Office, but the Attorney General is very big on the concept of one department. And so if you have any questions about anything that touches the Department of Justice, please call me in the U.S. Attorney's Office. We will find the right person to straighten everything out. I know Community Relations Service is working to crowd build. That's something we would like to do as cooperatively as possible to make it a great event on May 18th and in any event that we do together. So those are the two dots. I hope they're at least closer together if they're not outright connected.
You reassured me. Thank you.
Thanks, Barry.
And then the other question just would be because, since the shooting death of Shane Netterville, our commission, amongst other groups in the community, have been concerned about that and have talked about engaging Department of Justice. And I do know, I understand, and this is pretty transparent, that there is a work underway between the Fargo PD and the Department of Justice to come up with a plan. Does that connect in at all with your office, or is that another division that's working? And is there a way we would be able to connect the two dots there?
Well, I do know that before I was onboarded as
Yeah.
United States Attorney in mid-December, Jennifer Poole, who was United States Attorney at the time and now is First Assistant United States Attorney in our office and a special agent with the FBI, met with, I'm not sure if it was members of this commission or if it was the Police Oversight Commission, but did explain pattern and practice investigations, what happens when requests for investigations are made. I should decline to discuss any specific cases, but what I can tell you is that any requests for investigations are forwarded to the appropriate law enforcement agency. We, as the federal government, are not in a position to tell Fargo what it should and shouldn't do in terms of policing. But what we can do is offer resources. The Law Enforcement Knowledge Lab is a relatively new initiative by the Department of Justice that provides resources, and certainly that's available to Fargo City leaders and Fargo PD if that's the wishes of this community.
Okay, thank you. I have one more. Sorry. And that is, Tara and I were talking right before the meeting in my little simplistic non-attorney mind is struggling with how, again, it's a dot question. Knowing that Fargo passed a hate crime ordinance and know that we have federal laws on hate crime that you really shared well. We do not have a state hate crimes law that's effective. But it's, again, when it's a perceived hate crime has been committed, obviously the Fargo police are engaged. Sometimes the situation is brought to our attention. Is there a place or an appropriate time when your office would be engaged in any kind of suspicion of hate crime? Does that make sense?
If there's ever any question or concern about whether a hate crime has occurred, please call the FBI, please call our office.
FBI.
We want to make ourselves available. After that happens, we are very limited in what we can say. The Justice Manual, which sets forth Department of Justice policy, says that we typically don't comment on ongoing investigations. That includes whether an investigation exists in the first place. But please don't hesitate to call if you believe a hate crime has occurred or if you believe there's a civil rights violation. We will take the information and help try to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you.
And I guess one question that I have is, are you able to tell us kind of what level of, how many cases you've had come to the office either last year or this year to date, so that we know like the volume that kind of happens in the state that reaches your level?
Are you talking about hate crimes in particular or
Yes.
Federal cases in general?
I guess right now specifically hate crimes.
Right now, there are no hate crimes cases that are being prosecuted in the District of North Dakota, at least since I started on December 12th of last year. That's good. And we don't want hate crimes to occur. That's part of the reason why I'm here, is to make sure that we prevent hate crimes from occurring. If one does occur, that's certainly something that we would take a look at and refer to the appropriate investigative agency.
Perfect. Thank you. Yep.
I just want to thank you for being here and sort of making your office seem really accessible to our community. I really appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thank you. I certainly appreciate everything that you're doing and allowing me the opportunity to speak to you. And again, let's keep in touch.
Thank you, Mac.
Thank you.
Okay, we will jump into now the new number 6, legislative update by Barry Nelson.
I will try to be brief, and some text came to me that might be giving an update on something, if you give me a second here. I was joking with Cody that we have this group that gets together weekly to talk about what's happening in the legislature. And the coordinator says, well, Barry, I'm going to leave you till the end because you always bring the room down. So maybe this is my bringing the room down today, but as you know, I mean, this has been an unprecedented, extraordinary legislative session where an extraordinary amount of attention has been placed on a very small population, and that would be our trans population in the state. There was 21 bills originally that were targeting the trans community. Many of them were solutions looking for problems. On the plus side, about half of those bills to date have been either defeated or brought into another bill. So there has been, it's not unmitigated failure in terms of how we've been addressing them. However, the one that was the most concern of us was a bill that would ban transgender health care for youth. And it's complicated, I'm not going to get into it, but it had a particular impact on transgender youth who are interested eventually in transitioning. And the bill, that 1254, was passed by both the House and the Senate, and this morning Governor Burgum signed it into law. And that is very, very devastating to our trans community and their family members. It shows a total lack of regard of all the medical healthcare input that was being provided to the legislature as this was going through, and complete disregards the transgender youth and their family members in our state. So it's egregious at the minimum. It's not over yet. I think there's a number of us that are working on this, that it doesn't end with the governor's signature when it's something so wrong and so misguided. 8 other bills are still on its desk. They range in everything from eliminating the expression of transgender from the state data system to, we thought we had killed the bill that would disallow use of pronouns and teaching of anything having to do with LGBTQ in the public schools. That one was vetoed by the governor and sustained by the House. However, Senator Murdahl managed to take the language from that bill and put it into another bill. So it's still alive. 1522 is still working its way through the legislative process. So the message that we need to convey, I guess, from this commission and I individually is that we need to surround our trans community, their family and friends with love and support, because they are feeling the brunt of misguided legislative actions right now and cannot be lost in this whole conversation. So that, other than if there are any questions, is my downer report for today.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners?
It's still too horrifying to really have comments at this point, frankly. I don't even know where to start. So thanks, Barry, for the update.
Do you want to plug this now or later?
Oh, sure. We were hoping that we're having a gathering this weekend, North Dakota Human Rights Coalition. It was a legislative update date and fundraiser, but mainly we wanted to, again, surround members of the LGBT community with support. This is being held in 4 communities on Sunday, 4:30 to 6:30. It will be here in Fargo at Dreckers. It will be also in Grand Forks, Minot, and Bismarck. At the same time, we are going to connect via the magic of Zoom during the afternoon. And by that point, I think we will get our legs back under us, so we will be talking about post-legislative actions with combating these kinds of things. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We will go on to the next item then, which is committee updates. Committee B, do you have an update?
I do have an update. We actually met. And we discussed things that we want to do. One of the things that came out of it was we each want to sit there and go back and look at different subjects that we want to address. And I was tasked with getting a hold of the library and talking to them about getting the community room so we can start doing events. We talked about the hope or the best case scenario would be able to do something once a month. That we may not start that out of the gate, but we'll see what we can do. I talked to the library and they said that the best nights for us to do would be Monday or Wednesday. I tried to get access to their calendar, so it would be easier to coordinate with people doing presentations and have the calendar at the same time. And unfortunately, because I do not have a City of Fargo email address, we can't do that. I may talk with Ahmed and see if he can get into that, and maybe I can work with him. But they were also very receptive about me calling them up whenever we need anything and going in to meet with them. It was suggested that Monday or Wednesday nights would be best, and also a start time of 6 p.m. because the library closes at 8. We talked about the very first thing that we would do, and I think it would probably be starting in May after the legislative session, would be working with Cody Schuler from the ACLU for him and anybody that he recommends to give a presentation on what exactly rights are left for the LGBTQIA community, and what they are doing to fight what has already been done, to get updates on that. And I will get together with Cody to see what we can figure out for dates on that. We had different ideas that were brought up. One was like discrimination in housing. And today I got 2 excellent ideas for it. You know, like for June, maybe we're working with Fred and trying to get a history of Juneteenth, you know, and coordinating with them on their celebration of the holiday. See if we couldn't do that. And the other thing that a wonderful resource came to light today through the U.S. Attorney's Office. You know, I looked at the list of things that they had for discrimination. And that's at least a good 6 months of topics. So I would like to talk to you afterwards on setting up some partnership on that.
Great.
So we're working on it.
Thank you. And yeah, like you'd said, just circling Ahmed into the conversations to keep that continuity there.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Subcommittee C. Okay. And D.
ABC.
Okay. Okay. We'll jump into staff updates then. I think anything from over there?
No staff updates.
Okay. Yep.
I have one, if that's all
sure.
right.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem at all. I'm excited to announce that Fargo Fire is going to be looking for the next generation of firefighters. We're going to be doing hiring coming up here, and recognizing what we've heard and learned and know that current City of Fargo employee makeup doesn't match the broader demographics of our community. I'm really thankful to have the opportunity to speak to this commission and the broader audience as well, that we need to find that next generation of employees to fill roles. The positions that we're going to be hiring for It's full-time career positions. The 2023 salary will be $55,066 per year. Our application period is going to be opening May 1st and closing May 21st. In that, we know a lot of people don't know what it means to be a firefighter. So we've been adding orientation days where people can come to the station and learn what it would mean to do the 24-hour shift and understand what it would look like to be a firefighter. The orientation days are going to be May 3rd at 6 o'clock and May 16th at 6 o'clock at Fire Station 4. We're going to hold practice agility tests so people can know what that would look like and feel like. So the place to go to kind of get all this is fargofire.com. If you type in fargofire.com or go through the city webpage, you can click on careers, and that'll kind of get people started in the process. Do you have any questions for me?
I was going to say, I just have a bit of a suggestion. I was thinking if you're looking at getting more diversity into it, maybe you should check out the June 3rd or the Juneteenth celebration for a resource table.
And we have been participating in that. That is going to be happening after this application period. We will join, we will be there. So that's for the next time we hire. So, yep.
Great. Siku?
She spoke just what I wanted to
Oh, okay. Barry?
Jamie, could I ask the obvious? Obviously, you're recruiting both male and female firefighters.
That is firefighters, yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Perfect.
And our current recruit class, because that's also within our department in particular, recruitment has not traditionally been very gendered as well. And that's kind of who traditionally has shown up and seen themselves in those roles. We've got a really great class right now that I think will help challenge that. We have of Fargo's cadets right now, I think we have 5 in our academy. 2 of the 5 are females. We've got inroads to make everywhere. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think, do we have a new liaison from the police department here today as well?
Yes, thank you. I'm Mike Bernier. I'm a lieutenant with the Fargo Police Department. I've been with the department about 21 years. And just recently, Bill Offelt, Lieutenant Offelt, was promoted to captain. So he moved up to a different division within the police department, and I'm sliding into his role in the Specialized Services Division, which encompasses our school resource officers, our community service officers, which handles animal control, parking, enforcement, and things of that nature, but also the community engagement team and many other factors within the police department, different units within the police department I'll be overseeing. Captain Helmick could not make it to this meeting today, nor could Sergeant Christy Jacobson, so I filled in for the day. I do have a couple of quick announcements. We did just have a graduation yesterday, and 9 new officers started with our department officially. They were actually civilian employees as they went through the training academy in the Fargo Police Department, which is our own academy, and they graduated yesterday. 9 new officers, so they begin the field training part of their training this week, and so they're excited and they're raring to get going and prove that they can handle this job. But they've completed that academy. In that, we also had the promotion ceremony for Captain Offelt, and also Lieutenant Shaw was promoted to lieutenant from sergeant. We have another academy starting in mid-May, and we're hoping to get 10 to 12 more individuals into that academy and begin doing very well to shore the gap, if you will, with our staffing. We're doing pretty well overall, and we're well above the curve nationwide as far as our staffing goes. So we're sitting pretty good there. And so that's coming up. Out of my division, Sergeant Jacobson has been working with our communications team and another entity to create a suicide prevention PSA, and that will be released soon. So look for that in early May. The communications team with the city will be helping with that release date. So be looking for that. That'll be an interesting topic.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. I do have a question.
Sure.
You were talking about 9 new recruits coming on that have gone through training. Is there a diversity, equity, inclusion aspect included in that training?
Yes, absolutely. And that's a different division than I work in, but our training and development unit certainly goes above and beyond in recruiting. I don't have the particular numbers on hand, but I know there was one female that graduated the program, and I haven't looked at the numbers nationwide recently, but we have, I think we're above the national average as far as hiring female officers.
Actually, what I meant was included in the training, so that the officers go out with an idea or how to react to different things with, diversity, equity, inclusion within the community. We look at horrendous things that are taking place in police forces across the United States. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to see whether or not we had any training aspects to alleviate some of that from our police force.
Right, and it's written right into our mission statement, and we take that very seriously.
It looks like Dr. Hogan is also nodding his head, so I assume that he has a part in that.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe, in fact, from the time that I started here in the city of Fargo, is that the chief of police, by and large, has done a tremendous job of bringing in diversity, is to give representation to the city of Fargo. And I believe, in fact, is that the training is that they're doing too is being well versed in regards to diversity, equity, and inclusion as well. So I do give them kudos and commend them for doing so.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so in the interest of time, I'm just for announcements, I just want to say that our next working session is going to be looking at May 3rd, I think 11 a.m. And then from that, I just want to go into public comments so that we can save time for that. Those who wish to address the Human Rights Commission must use the sign-in sheet. Speakers must state their name and will be limited to 2 minutes, 30 seconds. Comments should not contain profanity or personal attacks. Staff, do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
Yes, one person, Reverend Karen.
Fantastic, thank you.
Hello. It's good to see you again. I look forward to seeing you every month. I have 3 brief things today. The first is I would really like to thank you for your deep concern for our LGBTQ community and your very vocal and public advocacy. It means a lot. It really does, particularly on a day like today when 2 bodies and a governor made some really egregious decisions, I think. And often in the name of religion, which breaks my heart into 1,000 pieces. On that note, there is a very brief video message of love for LGBTQ plus North Dakotans that features about 20 of us religious and spiritual leaders around North Dakota. And I'm sure Barry could share that with you, or I could share that with you directly, anticipating, fearing a moment like this. So we're doing what we can to be a voice of genuine compassion, a collective voice. The second thing is, as you probably anticipated, I continue and we continue to urge and hope and trust that this body will not only keep Shane Netterville's memory alive and honored, but continue to work for justice and work with the family and local community to understand together what that justice could look like. So we look forward to continuing to work and would love to do so more speedily as possible. And just the last thing is, I noticed a few months ago, but I haven't mentioned it, that public comment for this body has been moved to the end of meetings, unlike the way it used to be, and unlike city commission and other board and commission meetings that I'm aware of. And I'm curious, and I know others in the community are curious about that decision, and we'd love to hear what that was about, and also have some voice in when we have a voice in this forum. So thank you very much.
Is there anyone else present who wishes to speak, not yet signed up? Okay. Please state your name at the podium, and then you'll have the 2 minutes, 30 seconds.
Christopher Cohn, resident of Fargo, pronouns he, him, his. Regarding the comments at the end of the session, actually, I like that because sometimes you can be a few minutes late and miss your chance to speak. And plus the things that happen in the meeting you might want to comment on. So when it's at the end, it's a nice opportunity for that. But what I wanted to ask is that that you suggest to or advise the city commission to have the police department look into and study those parts of the population that can't respond to commands, and including people with PTSD and including people who are deaf and any other parts of the community, and then report that back to the city commission. I did ask the police advisory and oversight board to do that, and they don't seem to have any interest in doing that whatsoever. And all, by the way, they were all chosen by the police department. So they were hand selected by the police department. And it was a first come, first appointed appointment process there. So in fact, they haven't advised the city commission on anything after about a year. They're supposed to be an advisory board. So I think this would be a good body to make that suggestion to the city commission. Thanks.
Anyone else wishing to speak? No? Circling back, actually, does anybody else have other announcements as well? Okay. Hearing none, this meeting of the Human Rights Commission stands adjourned. Our next meeting is scheduled for, sorry, this is the wrong. May 18th at noon. Thank you.